Tonight, 26 inmates at Sing Sing Maximum Security State Prison are now college graduates. Our Dominic Carter attended a graduation ceremony unlike any other alongside actress and talk show host Whoopi Goldberg and actor Harry Belafonte. They tell him why they say the Hudson Link program is worth the investment and call it a backdoor deal. Governor Cuomo and Mayor de Blasio teaming up to take on the Working Families Party. Did this make members of the GOP hot under the collar? Tonight, we'll find out. Plus, we will head down south to Mississippi, where the Tea Party is taking some tough jabs at the Grand Ole Party. This week's primary election shows the grassroots conservative movement is still resonating with voters. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French, and thank you so much for joining us. And tonight, we begin in all places, Ossining, New York, where 26 inmates are now college grads. It is an achievement. Many of them couldn't have been in their wildest imaginations when they walked into the bars of that infamous prison. However, they thought big, worked hard, stayed out of trouble, and reached their academic goal, all thanks to a program called Hudson Link. And Dominic Carter, political journalist and author, he attended last night's graduation ceremony, and he joins us now with a really fascinating perspective. And it's one of those you kind of have to see to believe, right?
It sure is, Richard. This is indeed a remarkable program sponsored by the group Richard just mentioned, Hudson Link. Now, this group does an enormous amount of work to raise private dollars for a college education for prison inmates. There were plenty of tears at the graduation last night, tears of joy. It's not your traditional graduation, but behind the walls of this maximum security prison, these graduates have earned their college degree, part of the 2014 class of Mercy College. William Brown was the class valedictorian and says he almost declined his moment to shine because he was worried he would be at a loss of words.
Mom, Dad, the words that I convey to you this evening may never describe how grateful I am for your presence in my life. You have put your retirement and your life on hold to be here to support, continue to provide for me. For that I am extremely thankful.
But this day is also about tremendous pride and perseverance for the families. After years of turmoil, seeing their loved ones behind bars, not many parents get the opportunity to see their child as the valedictorian.
But he dealt with life and he deals with everything he has to do in here, and I'm extremely proud of him.
I feel very proud of him for the way he's dealt with everything in his life, and especially being in here.
Under the circumstances, for an ordinary person to get their bachelor's is no easy feat. I did it myself. But for my nephew, under these circumstances, he's made my whole family proud.
And other families express the same emotion.
When he comes home, he'll have something valuable, a tangible a degree that he can apply and make the world better.
Has this for you been a long time coming to be able to have these great feelings as a mom?
Yes, and I'm very proud today of him and all the graduates.
Because unless you know the past, you're doomed to repeat it.
That's right.
You know, it will happen. So now here you all are, and you're being encouraged to go out into your communities, but you know what you're walking into. Because you have to think back to who you were. Because who you were when you came here is not who you are when you're leaving. And that's really the journey.
The night included the graduation speech from Whoopi Goldberg. She was quite candid, speaking from the heart with no notes. Goldberg mentioned she did not attend college herself, and she talked about having a learning disability, being dyslexic, and that the men would one day be returning to their communities, this time as role models to help others. Hudson Link is the highly successful program that runs this initiative, and it's privately funded. Very few of their graduates have ever returned to prison, saving taxpayers millions.
There aren't many programs that I know of that you can spend $1 on here and get a $12 return there. It makes perfect sense.
There's a big difference between incarceration and rehabilitation. And I think the men here tonight who are graduating are the ultimate example of what rehabilitation can mean when we as a society look at them as men, not as prisoners.
It's also a special day for some very special and proud educators, even the college president that is brand new.
This is my first graduation ceremony at Sing Sing. I've just been in New York for 3 weeks, just relocated here from Tennessee, and I am just spectacularly happy to be here.
Professor, you've been doing this for 7 years. Are you worried about your safety?
That's a really good question. It's a question a lot of people ask me. These are maximum security prisoners. They have reasons that they're here, and I'm always aware of that. I know there's a reason that they're behind bars, but no, I have never once felt threatened or worried. These men are so respectful, so appreciative, so honorable. They would protect me with their lives if they needed to, and I always sense that. So I've never been worried. I've never been scared. They look like any other students you would find in an evening program. They dress like anyone else. They don't wear uniforms. They wear dark green pants and the same kind of polo shirts and sweatshirts that you would wear after work sometime. And so I've never felt worried about my safety.
Why do you do what you do, Professor?
I do it because I want to change lives, and I know that education changes lives. I appreciate that this is not a penal institution, it's a correctional facility, and I feel that I am in many ways correcting what went wrong and helping them become different people so that when they go on the outside, they are ready to serve the community and be a part of it.
A lot of people say, well, you know, I don't want to spend tax money on this. As it stands right now, this is privately funded, and I'm telling you, it is cheaper for us to educate people. It's so extraordinary to see and talk to somebody who says you would not have wanted to know me when I first got here. Well, that's why they should be educated in how to do better, because once these guys get out, they're going to go back to their areas, and the kids are going to look and say, well, wait a minute. I thought you were the baddest dude. They said, no, now I'm the baddest dude because I can get everything I want, because knowledge is power.
And Richard, knowledge is power. That was Whoopi Goldberg from just a few hours earlier today. That's how she opened The View, the national TV show today.
And we're going to be hearing from both Whoopi Goldberg, Harry Belafonte, also a longtime affiliate of this program, talking about it. We'll get in the policy stuff in the next segment, Dominic. But I always found it interesting, and I've been to 3 or 4 of these graduations over the years, and we're hands down some of the most compelling things. First of all, you're walking into a maximum security place, right? You're going through everything, and you realize when that door closes behind you, right?
It's closed.
This ain't a college Ivy League campus, okay? But I always found the most fascinating thing wasn't the people on the stage, but looking at the families and the amount, and I know some of them spoke openly to you, they were ashamed that their kids had their last name. You don't go to Sing Sing unless you did something really bad, okay? This isn't a country club.
That's the premise, number one.
So, but for the first times, some of them were like, when you asked them the name and stuff, they proudly tell you at the end who they were. They point to their son. They're like, that's my kid, and everything else. This is the first time a lot of them have been proud. A lot of times the children, the first time that they've been inside those walls, because it's hard for the father that's sitting there, and it's hard for the kids to go see him. So there's even a cost factor for kids from the city coming up there. All the things you saw, it's the first time for the families that they have had a reason here to hold their chin up.
Let me tell you, Richard, I've been now to 2 of the graduations, and each time I have found myself in the back literally crying, trying not to let others see that I'm crying. And I'm not approaching this as a bleeding heart liberal, because in the beginning, as you know, I wasn't sure if this program was worth it, even though it's not funded with taxpayer dollars. It saves taxpayers a lot of money. $60,000 a year to keep these guys locked up, each and every one of them. And when you look at the families, Richard, that's the story. Because the years of turmoil, the years of embarrassment in their communities, of knowing that while you didn't commit the crime, somehow you feel as a parent that you failed because your child is in prison, as you said, not in some country club, in a hardened prison for hardcore inmates. and you're forced to go see this individual, you're forced to put off your retirement, as one of the families said, you're forced to endure this embarrassment, and now after all of these years of pain, of humiliation, there's finally something good. They're graduating from college.
Yep.
And so it's remarkable.
And a lot of times they're the first ones in their family to have gone to college, albeit behind bars. And I am always struck, some of the kids who come there, one of them once said, I never thought I would ever be able to go to college, but if my father can, in a place like this, maybe I can too. And you go to a lot of the communities, a lot of the projects, and you speak to a lot of these kids. You'll bring them up to Rockland County, and you'll show them a life that they haven't maybe have seen from where they're from. A lot of the guys here come from these kind of communities too, and they're going back, right? So that was one of the things that, it's not just happy talk. They really do, when they go back, they tell them, listen, I didn't come from a place, where you want to have on your rap sheet or whatever. It's a different kind of message that maybe you get otherwise.
Richard, we talk a lot about the kids that walk around with their jeans on their backside, and while that may be a fad and so on, but many of the kids that walk around like that are kids in these communities that are really at the crossroad and can go one way or they can go the other way. If they pick the wrong path, it's a tremendous financial drain on taxpayers and on their lives. And believe me, there are going to be very few people that can touch these kids. These graduates, when they leave prison, and many of them still have 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years to do prison time before they go home. But unfortunately, in many communities around America and communities of color, as a matter of fact, it's considered a badge of honor, unfortunately, to have gone to prison as opposed to have gone to college. But these are guys, and this is what Whoopi Goldberg was talking about, when they go back home, they are the role models, whether we like it or not. They are the role models, and they can connect with the kids.
More than 95% even of inmates at maximum security facilities will get out. So the question is, what do we want them coming out as? Now, we're going to talk about that after the break. Dominic spoke to both legendary actor Harry Belafonte and Whoopi Goldberg, who you already heard from. They spoke to him directly at the event here, and Dom put some of the same tough questions lawmakers in Albany did this year. We'll hear their answers. Stay with us. 26 inmates, and you're seeing them right there at Sing Sing State Prison in Ossining, have something actually to be proud of today, a brighter future. They donned caps and gowns Wednesday night and walked across the stage to receive their earned college degrees. The same college course load, the same expectations, the same grading that a regular student would have had at that four-year undergraduate college. But they did their study inside a cell. They did it while there was lockdowns here. They did it in cell blocks where if something went wrong unrelated to them, they would have lost privileges and literally not been a part of the program. So all the things about regular prison life, but yet going to college at the same time. They legitimately earned the degrees that they received last night from Mercy College. And it was through, again, a program called Hudson Link for Higher Education. Private, nonprofit, thing that means no tax dollars, and it offers college courses to the inmates. The commencement ceremony also has gotten the attention over the years of people both in the arts and national figures. The Buffetts have been involved. You had Malcolm, you had the Forbes family that was involved at one. So it's not just on the left, you have on the right too, because this is a program that actually delivers returns. Just like any investment here, you look at the bottom line, and this program has paid off by any measurement. And this year, it got the attention of actress, TV talk show host Whoopi Goldberg, and also legendary actor and performer Harry Belafonte, who both attended the event. And I bring Dominic back in here because you got a chance to talk to both of them afterwards. And it wasn't just the kumbaya moment. You're asking about some of the hard questions we had early this year when New York State, on the legislative level, after the governor said he'd be behind the program putting funding into it, the thing died down because of all the same questions, legitimate questions, that have come up about this before.
Well, Richard, I say this as objectively as possible. Hudson Link, the program that runs this, it's an excellent initiative. But there are some of you watching right now that raised the question of whether prison inmates should be able to obtain a college education. Now, although the money in this case by Hudson Link is privately raised, and although the program is so successful that only a handful of the college graduates have ever returned to prison, now saving taxpayers millions, we sat down and put the tough questions to Whoopi Goldberg and Harry Belafonte. Whoopi Goldberg, we're used to seeing you in the movies, we're used to seeing you on The View, and now you're here locked up with the rest of us at Sing Sing. Why are you here today?
Because I pissed somebody off. No. Because there's a wonderful program that's happening here, and young men who came in thinking one way are leaving totally differently. Because they're graduating from college, something I'm sure a lot of folks never thought they would actually say they were going to do. So I'm giving the commencement speech. I don't know why it's me, because, you know, my little crazy self, I never went to college. But to watch these guys realize that there is something for them out there is a great thing. And so I'm just happy to be here to support and to make this, you know, speech.
Whoopi Goldberg, you know that you're a huge celebrity.
You know, you keep calling me by my full name. You can just call me Whoopi.
Okay, Whoopi. Yeah. You know that you're a full celebrity. A lot of people pay attention to what you have to say. So I want to put this question to you. There are a lot of people watching us right now that say these guys had their shot in life, they're doing their time for bad things, and that this is a waste of taxpayer dollars.
You know what, there's a lot of stuff that wastes taxpayer dollars, but if this is what I'm going to spend my money on, I'm happy about it. You know, education is never a bad thing in this country, where we become, you know, kind of dumber. We don't know our history. And I'm not talking about black people, I'm talking about Americans who don't know American history. It's not taught in school, you know. If you can get education in someone who made poor choices in the beginning, but is at a place where great choices can be made and pay off, this is only good for us in the Americas. This is good for us in the United States. Anytime we can spit out an educated person, I'm all for it.
Mr. Belafonte, this is not the first graduation I've seen you at. Why is this so important to you, and why do you keep coming back?
I keep coming back because I think the program here at Sing Sing is a very, very positive program. And we talk a lot about what happens when young men and young women get into the lockup. They're forgotten by the bigger society. But I think inside Sing Sing and this institution, and with Mercy College, we're making a big difference in how inmates begin to look at themselves. And I keep coming back to not only make sure the program's going well, but to learn from the guys in the lockup and from the college and everybody else, is there a way we can do it better, and what can I do to help?
Mr. Belafonte, we asked this of Whoopi Goldberg. You know what the critics say. They feel that this is throwing good money after bad, and that they wonder, are these really the individuals that should have this type of opportunity? To that, you say what?
I say every living creature deserves an opportunity to live, and to live in an environment and a space that's filled with decency and compassion. I don't think one should question whether these men and women in the lockup have any rights. Should not be treated with a certain sense of embrace and love and care. These are our children. Some of them are our fathers. Some of them are our husbands and daughters. Why shouldn't they be paid attention to? Perhaps if we paid attention to them on the outside, they wouldn't be here now. But I reject anybody that suggests that these programs are throwing good money after bad, or that somehow the process is flawed. Until you find a better game, don't knock ours.
Now, Richard, to possible critics, I say this: get your name on the list and have an open mind and just attend one graduation, just one, and see if you still feel the same way. But I want to go back to your original point, Richard, about, and because we do, whether you like this program or not, you have to tip your hat to these guys for obtaining their education behind bars. It's loud, it's noisy. This is something Whoopi Goldberg made a point. And safety is really an issue. The moment that you arrive at Sing Sing in Ossining, you know you're there. You know because you've been there before. We had to take off our belts, take off our shoes, take off our jackets, go through a metal detector, pass through several screening areas, and they bent the rules a little bit. I had to give them my cell phone. They bent the rules a little bit for me. Because I'm a journalist, they allowed me to bring a pen in to write. Normally, you can't even bring a pen into this maximum security prison.
Earlier this year, we've talked about this in the show, but Governor Cuomo said, you know what, let's put some funding behind this. Not a lot of funding, but in effect, make them eligible for like Pell Grants, which, as people know who've gotten that or TAP money, it helps especially low-income folks here at least get some money they can apply towards an education. All of a sudden, hue and cry, soft on crime, and all the rest. If you take completely out of the equation whether or not you believe in redemption and it's worth it or not, 99-point-something% of the guys who've gotten out don't go back in. The rate of recidivism is almost 0%. On the flip side, for those who don't get a degree, half of them go back in.
Within a couple of years.
You said it yourself, 60 grand a pop just to house these guys every year. Forget about the cost of the crime that they put on society here, the trial, all the other stuff. So just from a dollars and cents standpoint, we save money doing this. But the stories you hear, forget even the families you talked about, guys that could transfer to medium or low security facilities here, much safer and easier places, will stay at a maximum security facility because they can't get a degree at the other place. I'm telling you, if you think you throw good money after bad, that they're not worth it, remember, 19 out of 20 inmates are gonna come home. So they're gonna come back. The question is, what do we wanna come back as? I now believe there is such a thing as redemption, but even if you don't believe it, just think, what do you want them to come back as, and you want to keep spending your money to keep sending them back to this place. I hope after this election the issue will come back again, but hopefully at least the public can put a human face here on the debate that when it does. Dominic, thank you very much. Okay, speaking of New York, when we come back, we're going to leave the prison system and in fact get into New York State politics. Save the joke there that they're one and the same. Okay, after much debate, Governor Cuomo, he gains the support of the Working Families Party. However, what happened behind the scenes has got a lot of people angry on the left and on the right here. A lot of people say that deal, that backdoor deal with the mayor, well, it's got some folks saying that they sold some folks down the river to get it done. We'll talk about that after this.